The primary goal of a weed control program in our nursery is to encourage optimum growth for nursery stock while suppressing weed competition for light, moisture, and nutrients. Weeds can restrict growth of trees and shrubs, provide a habitat for rodents, and act as hosts to many diseases and destructive as well as beneficial insects. Effective weed control in nurseries requires timely and efficient use of biological, physical, mechanical, cultural, environmental, and chemical means. Since the development of selective herbicides in the late 1940s, many growers have depended solely on chemicals. This has been, in many cases, a mistake, particularly when they are applied before determining the nature of the problem and its severity. Selective herbicides should be used with caution. Repeated use of one technique or a chemical leads to the development of tolerant weed growth or invasion and establishment of resistant weed species. Integration of several strategies can prevent these problems. I'm Dr. DeBusk, and this video discusses the factors that affect weed control and methods to control weeds, including herbicides. Before starting a weed control program, first analyze your situation to determine the best course of action. The first factor to consider is the stage of plant growth. A nursery crop can be severely injured from the misuse of most weed control methods. Vulnerability is highest at the seedling stage for both the crop and weeds, and care must be taken to ensure that injury to the nursery crop is avoided. On the other hand, seed germination and the seedling stage of growth is one of the best times to reduce weed population. It is important to know at which stages of growth your crop is vulnerable to various weed control measures. Some plants, such as yew and arborvitae, is very sensitive to stem injury when young. They will often die at the stem if injured by hoeing or cultivating. Young plants with green stems that are very susceptible to stem injury from contact herbicides may not be affected by the same herbicides if the bark is brown and well developed. Weed control measures in nurseries are influenced by the production method in use. The second factor in developing weed control programs is the plant production site. In extensive field plantings on wide spacing, the best weed control method may be to apply a pre-emergent herbicide to weed-free soil, cultivate, or a combination of the two, herbicide in the rows and cultivate between the rows. If weeds are present, apply a post-emergent herbicide. Container production requires weed control both in the containers and in the container area. Weed growth in containers can be minimized by using a weed-free growing medium or by fumigating or pasteurizing the medium prior to planting. Control weeds in the container production areas by setting the containers on a soil-free surface such as crushed stone, black plastic, or fabric weed barrier. Be sure to provide good drainage for the surface. If granular herbicides are broadcast on container-grown plants, irrigate afterwards to ensure effective weed control. It is necessary to control weeds in the areas surrounding nursery production sites. All too often these areas are neglected, and the large quantities of weed seeds are blown into crop rows and containers. A third factor includes identification of weed species, its vulnerability to control measures, and the source of the weed problem. Some weeds in plant containers can be more economically removed by hand than by the use of pesticides, particularly if they are young and few in number. Some weeds regenerate from roots, stems, bulbs, and runners that remain in the container. These weeds are best removed with pesticides. Too often, weed control measures, especially herbicides, result in little or no weed control or a disaster to the nursery crop. It is necessary to know the weed species to be controlled and the best means of controlling it without damaging the crop. Annual weeds are easily controlled at or soon after germination. Therefore, you should start the control at this time. A delay of a few days could negate the control. Selective herbicides are very specific as to the weeds they will or will not kill. Pre-emergence herbicides are of little or no value if applied as a post-emergence treatment. Cultivation is most effective when weed plants are small and more difficult and often less effective on larger plants. If you can determine the source of a weed problem, you can take measures to eliminate weeds at their source. The fourth factor to consider is the effect of the production environment, soil type, moisture, temperature, and wind on a weed control program. Many granular herbicides are most effective if they are cultivated into the soil and watered into the soil or medium immediately following application. Sandy soils require less active ingredients per unit area than clay or organic soils. Do not cultivate when the ground is wet. Avoid applying herbicides when it is windy. Herbicide effectiveness is often reduced if the temperature is below 50 degrees Fahrenheit or above 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Liquid applications are best applied on a calm day when the temperature is between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit and weather humidity is moderate to high. The advantages and limitations of physical, mechanical, biological, cultural, environmental, and weed control measures are the final consideration. Sometimes one control measure is adequate, while certain situations may require a combination of several controls to provide the best results. Cultural or mechanical weed control has been successful for centuries. Complementary grass plantings between the rows can be advantageous if properly managed. The integration of grass aisles and nursery plant rows can achieve effective weed control through competition and limited selective application of herbicides. Mulches are a common method for controlling weeds when plants are growing in the ground, but pine bark, hardwood bark, cedar chips, leaves, pine needles, and straw typically reduce weed populations by only 50% in container production. A promising new waste product, pelletized waste paper called EnviroGuard Commercial Weed Block, has been found to control weeds for up to 1 year. A 1-inch layer provided to be effective in controlling weed seed germination in the potting media and weed seeds germinating on top of the mulch. Phosphate was added to the waste paper to prevent growth reduction due to the aluminum present in waste paper. A newer product that has come out is core rings that don't disintegrate quickly and can be placed around trees. Weeds can be controlled environmentally by manipulating light and temperature. A weed barrier such as sheets of black plastic or woven plastic fabric placed over the soil surface restricts light and imposes a physical barrier to the germinating weed seedlings. High temperature obtained by controlled burning can be used to kill weeds and destroy weed seeds. It can be used effectively within and around the perimeters of nurseries, especially container production nurseries. Pasteurization of soil and potting media can also effectively reduce weed problems. Soil or media heated to 160 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes will destroy most weed seeds. Pasteurized medias are used primarily in the production of container-grown plants. If used properly, herbicides can effectively control weeds in nurseries. If improperly used, for example, the wrong chemical, repeated use of one chemical, errors in calculation or application, improper timing, drift, and carelessness, herbicides can produce financially devastating results. Always read and follow label instructions. Many herbicide disasters can be avoided by following label instructions. As the name implies, herbicides are plant killers. Herb means plant, aside means killer. Used properly, they are an excellent tool. Used improperly, they can seriously injure or kill economic plants as well as weeds. Although herbicides can be classified in many different ways, 6 of the most practical are pre-emergence, post-emergence, selective, non-selective, systemic, and contact. Pre-emergent herbicides control weeds by destroying seedlings as they germinate. The most effective weed control with pre-emergence herbicides is obtained when the soil has been tilled and all established weeds eliminated prior to treatment. Most pre-emergence chemicals will not kill established seedlings or mature weeds. Tilled soil allows for a better herbicide penetration and distribution. The most effective pre-emergent herbicide weed control is obtained when half an inch of rainfall or irrigation follows within a few days of application. Application to moist soils is usually preferred to dry soils. Excessive moisture may reduce the effectiveness of certain herbicides such as Treflin. Some pre-emergence chemicals are affected by soil temperature. Organic matter in soil or in container mixes react with and absorb herbicides. In general, the more organic matter, the higher the herbicide rates required to control weeds. Cultivating deeper than 2 inches will reduce the effectiveness of all herbicides. Herbicides vary in length of time they remain active in the soil from a few days to more than a year. Post-emergence chemicals are used for general weed cleanup around buildings, waterways, fence rows, and so forth. They destroy weed growth after emergence. Used with extreme caution, these materials may be used in tree and shrub plantings. Avoid herbicide contact with foliage, trunks, or stems with green tissue, since damage will result to each of these materials. Many factors affect the efficacy of herbicide sprays, including drift, evaporation, runoff, leaf type and orientation, and the availability of the herbicide to translocate within the plant. Good results can be obtained if care is given to select the correct time, material, and method of application. Selective herbicides kill only selective species of plants, but not others. Non-selective herbicides are used to kill all plant species. Translocated or systemic herbicides move within a plant. Some are translocated following foliar application, such as Roundup, while others following soil application. Non-systemic or contact herbicides kill on contact and do not translocate. The effectiveness of chemical weed control depends on the training and experience of the person responsible for selection, calculation, calibration, and application of herbicides. All herbicides will control weeds as specified on the label. Therefore, it is up to the grower to read, understand, and follow the instructions to achieve the desired results. An example of an herbicide schedule would be to apply a pre-emergent herbicide in the late fall and spring, with cultivation occurring in the spring to control summer annuals. In the early summer, there would be another pre-emergent herbicide application to control winter annuals. Post-emergent herbicides would be used as needed throughout for spot treatment. Many types of sprayers are available for applying herbicides. You do not need expensive, high gallonage, high pressure spray equipment. A weed control sprayer should have the following features: a low pressure pump, a tank agitator that keeps emulsions and wettable powders properly mixed, a 50 mesh screen on the suction line since 100 mesh screens are too small for wettable powders, a spray boom, a pressure gauge that measures up to 100 psi, and a nozzle. For example, a 8004 T-Jet would be a wide angle 80 degrees flat fan nozzle. Because weeds in the crop row are usually the most expensive to control, it may reduce cost 50% to spray herbicides in a band over the row rather than cover the whole area. Weeds between the rows can be mechanically treated. For band applications, adjust for the area of the field actually to be sprayed. For example, suppose the recommendation for a chemical is 4 pounds per acre and 12-inch strips are sprayed over 36-inch rows. Only 1/3 of the area will be covered with sprayed material, so only 1 1/3 pounds of chemical, 1/3 of 4 pounds, will be required per acre. 4 pounds of chemical will then cover 3 acres of the crop. Keep weed control sprayers clean, especially if you use them to spray more than one herbicide or to apply fungicides, herbicides, and insecticides with the same equipment. Many nurseries will label a sprayer for herbicide use only to prevent plant injury from any herbicide residue. Do not use a sprayer to apply insecticides or fungicides that the sprayer has contained 2,4-D type herbicides. When cleaning thoroughly, rinse the whole sprayer with water inside and out, including boom, hoses, and nozzle. Partially fill the sprayer with water before you add the cleaning agent. Keep the pump running so that the cleaning solution will circulate throughout the sprayer. Do not leave corrosive cleaning agents in the tank or spray system for more than 2 hours. When you are using only pre-emergent sprays, a good rinsing with water is enough. For other spraying purposes, remove weed killers from sprayers by adding 1 gallon of household ammonia or 5 pounds of sal soda to 100 gallons of water. Allow the solution to stand in the sprayer for at least 2 hours. Drain it out through the boom and nozzles and rinse the sprayer with water. Do not let spray solutions stand in the tank overnight. Do not allow solutions to run into streams or other water sources. Granular herbicides are applied with various types of spreaders that must be calibrated for accurate application of herbicides. It is best to use granular spreaders that are adjustable for rate of delivery. After setting the delivery mode, fill the bin with a known weight of the herbicide and apply the material to a measured area, for example 440 square feet, 1/100th of an acre. Reweigh the remaining herbicide. The difference in weight times 100 will equal the rate being applied per acre. Adjust the delivery mode as needed to increase or decrease the rate and recalibrate. Repeat as necessary until a proper rate of application is attained. Invasive plants, non-native plants which crowd out native plants, have become a serious problem in many protected native plant communities in the United States. Of the 235 non-native woody plants invading natural areas, 85% were introduced primarily for ornamental or landscape purposes, and 14% were introduced for agricultural purposes. Many invasive plants are a problem in only one section of the United States. You can find the status of a non-native plant in Florida by looking it up in the database on the Assessment of Non-Native Plants in Florida's Natural Areas website found on the slide. In conclusion, weeds are one of the most common pests in nursery production and require strategic management. Since herbicides can also affect ornamental plants, the label should be followed carefully.